And some people have longer career lives than others as far as their business or whatever place they're in, whether it's acting, theater, business. But if you forget the why, everything else starts to fall apart and deteriorate after that.
Hey, this is Kane and Alessia from Industry Rockstar.
And welcome to the Industry Rockstar Show.
This is a podcast devoted to driven entrepreneurs and business owners who want to go from scratch to impacting the world massively and become what we call business rock stars.
At Industry Rockstar, we have helped millions of conscious and evolving business owners in over 80 countries globally go from business novice to business rockstar.
We bring you the secrets of the highest achievers, the most innovative thinkers, and the tested systems that's going to grow your heart, your mind, your business, and of course your bank account. Let's rock. Hey, it's Kate Minkus. Welcome to the Industry Rockstar podcast. I am so excited, and it is my honor, my pleasure to have with us here in the studio L.Michelle, a not only gorgeous woman, wish you could see what she looks like from my perspective, but also a super talented woman. And we're going to be discussing a really powerful topic for all entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders that they really have to understand. It's about finding their power voice. And just so you understand, this woman has found her power voice. She is a powerful voice in the world. She has been featured on radio internationally. She has been featured in theaters performing in gorgeous stage shows. She is a saxophone performer and player, and she is studying at my alma mater in Boston right now as she's continuing her education and continuing to refine her knowledge and her wisdom because, you know, it doesn't matter how successful you are. We're always continuing to learn and grow. She's at Berklee School of Music studying, and I was so excited when I heard all this stuff and I wanted to interview her because she has really refined the ability to find your power voice. So welcome, L.Michelle. So great to have you here, and I appreciate you being here.
It's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so the topic of today is finding one's power voice. And, you know, of course, our listeners are entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals and leaders. And so everybody's looking at how do they become more powerful in their power voice. We can go into mechanics. We can look about your messaging. We can look at, you know, all the studies that you've done and all the work that you've done in radio and performance and theater and all that. Maybe we even start with what is a power voice, right? And how do you, I mean, there's the powerful voice as a performer, but how do you say the power voice in business? What's your thoughts on that?
First of all, know the why of your business. And that is the thing that I think people, when you have good concepts and good ideas that are innovative, you know, we forget the why. And the why is the very foundation of how to find your power voice. It's the why. Why did you have this concept? Why did you have this idea? Who are you trying to reach? What is the why?
So getting that clarity around, you know, and also gives you that inspiration, right? You know, I used to tour for years with Tony Robbins on stages. He was the why guy. He wanted to know why you do it. And that is the starting place for his self-empowerment work as well, is that builds that flame, that empowerment when you really, really know the why. Okay, we're starting to, you're almost starting to capture into message here, right? So
yes.
There's that messaging part. So, you know, how does somebody start to craft up their message, or what have you done over your years to kind of understand what your power voice was? Why don't you tell a little bit about your story and your journey through finding your power voice, and we can look at those golden nuggets that you used to end up in, you know, the great positions you have.
Okay, well, I started wondering, it seemed at first I was all over the place. I had these good concepts and these great ideas and, you know, in performance and hair and makeup. And then once I started to look at all the elements that led up to it, for example, okay, I'm a single mother. So I decided to get my license in cosmetology. And I always was like, you know what, I can fix this. I could solve a problem here while I'm trying to raise my son. But then that deep down passion to help clear the noise kept resonating within me. So it started off with me doing cosmetology work and speaking to people and encouraging them and giving them inspiration towards who they actually are and helping them find their why. So as I kept moving forward, I discovered that while I'm doing these, you know, these voices and performing and what have you, I took it from behind the cosmetology chair. And then with my INTJ, introverted self, you know, I'm very, very introverted. I was like, okay, I don't necessarily want to be on the stage and be up front, but I noticed that I could inspire just from speaking, right? So I said, let me give this a shot. Let me give this a shot. Did the first radio voice drop, the huge impact, huge impact. And I kept moving forward saying, wait, I don't have to be the front person, but I could help be the foundation of helping people find their voice. So I started to fine tune that and started doing things like Toastmasters. You know, I know you've heard of Toastmasters.
Sure.
And mass communications. And then as I got into college, the teachers and instructors actually like just put their arms around me basically and just said, wait a minute, you have something special. So that's how I got started getting towards those things. And I said, wait, okay. And I still didn't want to be in front of the camera. I still didn't want, any attention, it seems like a paradox, but I just didn't want the attention. But the first thing, which is my first book, is called Without Words. And how I discovered my place was this. I noticed that I hid behind my saxophone. My saxophone allowed me to relay messages without speaking, without doing anything. I was like, okay, I can do this and they can still feel who I am and they could still, pull and draw from me the energy that I'm trying to convey back. And I was like, but I can't just go on stage, right? I can't go on stage and not introduce myself, can I? What kind of show is that? Really, if you think about it, what kind of show is that? I just walk on stage and start going, ba-da-da-da-da, okay, bye. So it pushed me from becoming behind the scenes to realizing that my voice held weight and power as well. So that's how the transition began. I had to start introducing, and then it became inspiration once I started becoming authentic, saying that I'm an INTJ, an introvert, thinking, judging, intuitive person. I don't need this platform, but I don't want this platform, but it's almost like it chose me. How about that?
So I love it. So we got authenticity, right? That's that big thing. And, it's funny. My wife would claim that she's an introvert. It's definitely in groups. I'm not sure it'd be so true at home, but I guess that's part of introverts, their release, where the more in the intimate settings, right? They really bloom and blossom and really, grow in their ability to share. So we got an authentic voice. We got that power of the why. Tell me a little bit about, in finding your power voice, what are some mechanics or some things that people can be doing around creating power to their voice? So there's actually, there's that kind of the psychology nature of it, right? Finding our why, like thinking about it, the mindset. There's the authenticity, getting vulnerable, that kind of stuff. And
yes.
Brene Brown talks a lot about this as well, as that vulnerability, a brilliant speaker and a researcher on vulnerability. And so as we get more vulnerable, we certainly resonate more with humans because that's what we crave. We crave that inside look into human beings. We want to see inside of them. We want that truth. And so many people they're covering up that truth, right? Instead of just sharing that. And yet you started to get authentic. You said, here's who I am. I am who I am. And funny enough, when we think that we might actually share something that will turn people off, almost every single time we get vulnerable and we turn people on.
That's true. That's so true. And just with that being said, knowing what you stand for and knowing that I had to become more visible and authentic and being vulnerable, it lended to people being more drawn to me so that I could. So that vulnerability actually draws people to you, like you said. And then I was able to speak and encourage them, to find their voice. And so knowing what you stand for sure. And a lot of times, for instance, you may not be a speaker, may not be, but because of your vision, when you find your niche, knowing what you stand for, and it empowers you actually to start finding that power voice. Because if you don't speak, there's people waiting on you, right? And if you don't speak up, and if you don't, the business that will come, the business that will follow, the inspiration, your why will never connect to one another. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So, okay, so let's talk some mechanics. I want to know, because you're a pretty studied woman around music, performance, expression, right? I mean, you have to be a speaker and a radio voice and a singer and a performer, and she's, you're majoring in voice there in your advanced studies, and you can see, saxophone player, all this. So What are some of the mechanics that you would say to help people become more powerful with their voices? And I'm really talking like the mechanics as a speaker, as a presenter. I know this might get into kind of the technical side of things, but
It is. It's getting there.
what,
Yeah.
what do you do to really, I mean, everybody would love to have, with podcasts and videos and presentations and everything, people would love to have a voice that other people say, I love to listen to you. What are some major tips that you could give people to say you can do this, or little exercises or things to help them bring out a physical power voice along with that emotional power voice?
This is something I teach all the time, actually. You understand the importance of dynamics in what you're saying. I'll give you an example. Okay. If I'm sitting here and I'm going, well, I'm a voiceover artist and I really like doing voice, and it's kind of fun, and well, this is okay, but I really think I can. You get pulled away. You're like, what is this? What is this?
It's like you're straight from California.
Right. Right. So
on the bike, down to the valley, you sort of kind of, it's super cool, man. Let's go surf.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just monotone. And so I encourage people to actually, emulate, think in your mind first of somebody that you resonate with. What draws your attention in, right? And then emulate that and start adding dynamic to your voice when you're speaking. No matter, you don't have to be an actor. You don't have to be anything of the sort. You don't have to be a voiceover artist. But here's an example. So, we're sorry the number you have reached has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, check the number or try your call again. This is a recording, 903-832. You heard the rises and falls.
Oh, girl, wait, hold it. You just transformed in front of our eyes there. I was like, where's that recording coming from? All right, so tell us about that. So you got your natural speaking voice, right?
Uh-huh.
All the listeners
I'm pretty country.
Where are you from originally?
Texarkana, Texas.
All right.
down in the country.
So you have to be capable of understanding your voice through accents.
Yes.
Because you have a clean accent when you do that. You don't have a Southern Texas accent when we're not just jiving along here naturally. When you did that little riff, accent's gone. Very clear, right? Neutral accent, as we would say.
Yes.
You change tones. So tell us about that. So what do we do? Are you listening for things? Are you adjusting your mouth? Like how does somebody start to adjust their tone and their voice? Because this can mean the difference between people listening to you for hours.
Exactly. Well, we have an oral cavity, our mouth, the inside of your mouth. There's the back of the throat, right? Mm-hmm. And usually when we're talking on a day-to-day basis, it's just lazy. It's just like we just spoke about the monotone. It's just like whatever. But you have to utilize every aspect, every element of the oral cavity and your mouth and your tongue and your lips to start to produce the sounds. And I know everyone can't see me, but you can. Right.
You're really accentuating. Now, I'm going to tell my wife this, honey, you got to start using your lips more and your tongue more. Let me help you out. I'll get you started.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So now, as and of course, they're only listening to this, but I'm seeing her visually. And just to explain, when we're natural and we just talk, many times we don't have even a lot of space between our teeth. Right. And then when you start going into your kind of your message that you did there, your voiceover, there was a lot more use of the mouth, of the pronunciation.
Exactly. And I have to emphasize the dynamics too, and how the mouth placement lends to, and your breath support as well. People don't think when you're public speaking, you have a business, you don't have to do this. You'd rather, kind of get on stage. You're here because of my excellent idea. But people are tuned out until they get to the point, right? You want to draw people in. So I read something for Rick Party that does Voices for Sports Center just the other day. And the dynamic, the voice inflection, for instance, this is called a voice actor's voice. This is my voice. See how that smooth and that whisper is there?
Yeah.
It pulls you in. You're ready to listen.
I'm ready to listen.
Huh?
I'm ready to light some candles is what I'm ready to do.
See? But check it out. Check out what happens. What pulls people in is that using, and when it sounds silly is usually when it's effective, okay? So this is my voice. There's no music and no sound effects, only pure, clear sound recorded for your ears. I'm a voice actor, a voice artist, a voice talent, and I can only convey many messages in many ways and in many tones. Did you see how all of those voice inflections changed?
I love it.
I can speak in a very light whisper to share intimate messages, or my voice can boom deeply, commanding respect. And so when you do these rises and
I like
these
that.
falls,
Wait, I like that real squeaky one. Do the squeaky one again.
My mom and dad want me to eat all my vegetables, but they're so gross. I can't stand it. But then my mom, she went to the store and bought me new snacks that have vegetables in them. And I love my snacks, Mom. Thanks, Mom.
That is so awesome. I love it. That's great. Now, let's talk about how to use these because these are really, really they're entertaining, right? And so, we have a whole speaker program. I've taught, I don't know, maybe 10, 15,000 business owners just on speaking. We've had hundreds of thousands of business owners go through our trainings, but some of them just want to focus on how to present, how to speak. Others say, just show me how to make money in my business. But so let's talk about how we use this, right? So today, all the webinars, the challenges, the speeches, the videos, all of this stuff. How do we stay entertaining? And I think a lot of people would be shy to use those characters. But man, when you do that, I perk up. I get attentive. And when we tell stories, which of course stories are one of the greatest vehicles to make points in our presentation. You want to keep somebody's attention. You just tell them story after story after story. I mean, when I'm on stage with Les Brown, right? Les Brown's one of our advisors here at Industry Rockstar. We'll tell stories for hours. Tony Robbins, he'll tell a 4-hour story. Keep that audience of 20,000 people glued to the story. Well, you can't just tell it in your own voice. We do need to consider using some of these other voices. And we don't have to, but it creates much more dynamic range, as you said from the beginning. We've got to get rangeful in our expression.
Yes.
That's what
and one way to do that, I'm sorry, I thought you mentioned, but one way to do that is not be afraid of the emotion and the vulnerability. See, that's what happens. Because if you're telling a story about, I used to live in a car, and you just say, I used to live in a car, and you're trying to suppress that emotional side of it, it disengages people because it doesn't sound convincing. I mean, that's just what it is. It's not convincing. It's like, oh, I used to live in a car. Now I'm a multimillionaire. Okay. That doesn't resonate with somebody that's looking to get where you're going and that's buying into what you're doing. Do you see?
Now, how would you say that with more emotion in the voice? I used to live in a car, but now I'm a multimillionaire. Give me the example.
Okay. I used to live in a car, and it was so hard. I just couldn't understand why I had all of this in me. And I didn't find a way. I didn't have access. I didn't understand what to do and how to do it. But I met someone.
And now I'm a multimillionaire.
Right.
No, I'm a multimillionaire, and I do.
Right.
I don't do it nearly as good as you do. That's great. So for those of you listening along, so we can really distinguish, there's a much deeper and richer going into that story. Now, I'm actually a trained actor, and I grew up in Chicago, so I trained in improv.
I can tell.
Maybe with that Chicago accent. So I trained in improv comedy growing up, and I've trained in theater and performance since I was 5 years old. I love it. And Chicago has the most amount of comedy clubs per capita than any other city in the world, right? Yes. And so some would say, don't worry about the mechanics, experience the character, right? But I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough. I think you can experience the character, right? You are layering many layers in there. You're layering the experience of the character. You're fully in there. You're being the character. You're not telling the story. You're experiencing the story.
Exactly. You just said it. You said it all right there.
Oh, I didn't mean to steal it.
You said it all, because we're really afraid of doing that, and how you experience the character, I'm just going to say, there's a quote that I always say. All right. You're only one situation one decision and one circumstance away from being right where the people that you judge or you're looking at to inspire are. Mm. And so when you think that way, there's a sense of humility that comes in that allows you to become more open so that you can experience and remember where you came from and add the humility to it. And then you're able to relay that message and experience as if you were the one in the audience.
Yeah, there's the challenge as a presenter, as a speaker, from an ego standpoint, to either place ourselves in a place where we feel we're above, and there's a sense of a bit of arrogance or righteousness, or the opposite, which is to feel like we're below, we're not good enough, the nervousness, the anxiety. And what you're saying is, if you remember that you're essentially one circumstance, one choice, one decision away from being exactly where your audience is at, you can feel that empathy and say, we're in this journey together. Now, I'm going to add a few interesting thoughts for you this afternoon, and I'm going to share some golden nuggets, but I am not trying to be here being better. I'm not trying to be here being worse. I'm just trying to be here being a contribution.
Yes. That's it. That is it. And I've been on some of this other stages on this other social media platform, and people were like, wow, I never thought about it like that. But that's what draws people in to hear what you have to offer. If you can remember, that's how you ultimately are able to become a better presenter. If you can remember your one circumstance, one situation, and one decision away. Your bank account may have millions in it this day, but 2 days later, it could have nothing. And if you can't remember that, and that place where the audience is tuned into you intently, your presentation will come off as monotone, not really caring, and not really truly engaging with trying to help who's there paying this money to see you.
That's great. Okay. And you need to learn how to have a squeaky voice. That's the key to success. One last major tip you can leave with everybody about finding their power voice. We've gone through things like authenticity. We've gone through things like vulnerability. We've talked about why. We've talked about psychologically positioning yourself equal and as a journeyman or journeywoman to just being on the same page with everybody. And then we talked about some mechanics, dropping into that expression, being in the stories, experiencing that, utilizing your voice, your tone, your pitch, utilizing all of that to create a more dramatic connection to the story. Lots of great points in here. What's sort of one last tip you'd like to leave with the audience to say this is important about finding your power voice? Or maybe the most important thing you learned along the pathway?
I think it goes back to the why, though. I really do. I mean, ultimately, we all have these dreams and aspirations. And so what made you want to do what you're doing? The why. Why did you want to have this business? Why? The why is really the thing to me. I know we already stated that, but it seems so simple to say and simply stated. But if you let go of the why and you forget the why, I think everything else from that foundation crumbles. I do. I really do. I mean, because you know how everybody says everybody has their 15 minutes of fame, and some people have longer career lives than others as far as their business or whatever, place they're in, whether it's acting, theater, business, 10X, whatever. But if you forget the why, then everything else, because that's the foundation, right? Everything else starts to fall apart and deteriorate after that. So then if you remember the why, you can use these tips and all of these things to help keep people engaged and coming back for more, and you helping people get to where you are.
I love it. Good. We'll cut it right there and put on an end cap, and I think that's it.
All right.
There you go. Thank you for that, L.Michelle. That was beautiful.
Thank you. And I was getting ready to do another voiceover because it was so fun.
Let's do more. Well, we'll put it beginning. Let's see. You want to do like a little string of something, maybe a monologue that you do, and I'll put it right at the beginning of the podcast to get people pulled in, and then we'll drop them into the interview. Okay.
I'll go to Macbeth. This is one of the first things I ever did. Coming out of my introversion, I was just a backstory to it really quick was I was in class and I was introverted. I was bored with what was going on because I am a creative as well. And I said, I'm going to shake things up. And I thought I was going to get in trouble for it, But then my teacher pulled me out of classes for 2 days to come to each of her English lit classes to do this, okay? And this is part of the Song of the Witches from Macbeth, all right?
Eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog, adder's fork and blind worm's sting, lizard's leg and a howlet's wing, for a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth, boil and bubble.
Hey, we hope you enjoyed this Industry Rockstar podcast.
Make sure you check out the next one and also find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and any of your favorite social media places.
Oh, and please subscribe to our channel so you know when we release new episodes.
And also, leave us some feedback to help us grow this awesome community.
We look forward to sharing the next episode with you. And until then, rock on.